this video I'm going to talk about my idea for a role-playing game called Mamluk provisionally. This is based on the real Mamluk Sultanate in Egypt that existed from the 13th century to 1517 when it was conquered by the Ottoman Empire. I think, though, it would make for an interesting scenario or an interesting setting for a role-playing game. The state is known by the name Mamluk, which is literally slave, but it carried a connotation of a kind of slave soldier. This was common in the Islamic world from the time of the Abbasid Caliphate. But in the Mamluk Sultanate, it took on it was sort of the defining feature of the political system. So, just to briefly sketch out the Mamluk Sultanate in real history, you have Saladin, who conquers, who creates the Ayyubid Sultanate, and then after about, I think, few of his descendants, the Mamluks revolt and established this Sultanate in Egypt and Syria. The founding figure's name is Baybars, who's one of these Turkic Mamluks, and he fights the Mongols and establishes this political system. And the source of Mamluk power at first was the Turkic military slaves that were brought in, and then later, sort of about halfway through the existence of the Sultanate, most of the Mamluks are Circassians, so these people are from the Caucasus. But really, these Mamluk soldiers could be from any number of places. There's, in the sources, there's evidence that there was like a German, for example, and this is in the book, great book, by Karl Petri, the Mamluk Sultanate. It mentions there's like, basically there was like any kind of person that the Sultanate needed. Well, not any kind, but if you had like German diplomats, there was probably a Mamluk of German origin or something that could serve that role, that kind of thing. Why do I think this would be an interesting role-playing game? Well, I think it would give the group of players first of all, a reason to be together, and also it would accommodate for like the differences among the characters. So typically, the Mamluks would be brought up and purchased by a grandee. They would be brought up and trained until a certain age where they would be manumitted. So they would be legally freed, but they were attached to this kind of patron for most of their life until maybe they became strong, powerful enough on their own to establish their own household, and then etc. And another reason why I think it's an interesting RPG kind of milieu is, the Sultanate itself was not dynastic, so you had different sultans from different families that established themselves, and but there was no kind of set dynasty like we see in the case of the Ottomans, for example, or European polities. It was kind of always in flux, which gives the Mamluks a kind of reputation for being an unstable kind of political system. But anyway, in an RPG, I think that would be really interesting, where you've given the players something to, first of all, reason to be together, and you could accommodate differences among the characters, like I already said, and then also I think importantly there would be kind of a reason for you to be doing certain tasks. So, you have a patron, and the patron would give you certain tasks to do. There's a reason, there's a context to your characters, which I think, in some kind of fantasy, like more dungeon crawl intensive type RPGs, I think you can lose that context of like, why are the characters doing this, right? And that's something personally I prefer, is having the character be meaningful within the world, and really just being a part of the world, rather than more, where like the world is just there to kind of like trample through, right? That's kind of a reductive view of some like more D&D type games, but it is a thing, right? So I think that would be give people something to do, and then there would be obvious kind of progression for the players as they work through the certain ranks, or attain wealth. So you can start as just like a regular soldier, and then you could eventually acquire like your own Mamluks, your own burgeoning household, and if you really wanted to do this, you could become a sultan potentially, and also if you wanted to do PvP type stuff, which I know in RPGs not everyone likes that, but there would be room there, so to accommodate that, and that would fit the kind of setting. Also, with the kind of context of the world, would also be good, where because this is the real Sultanate was like this Islamic society. You have Islamic judges, that sort of thing. There would be consequences for actions, right? Like, you wouldn't just be able to go around like attacking people. And certainly there's sources from the Mamluk Sultanate about how people will go to the judge, like commoners going to the judge to say, hey, these like Mamluk soldiers stole something from me or beat me up. This is something that really happened. So there would be like consequences there for the GM to kind of impose, not to like punish the players like in a sort of like malicious way, but just to make the world more interesting, right? One thing I think I'll work through as I think about this is whether I would do like a real type of Mamluk Sultanate, or I would make it more of like a fantasy Sultanate. Because even if I use the real Sultanate, like it is Egypt, but with the kind of like jinn and the things like that they believed in, were out there. I'll have to think about that. I mean, conceivably I could do both. What I think I'm going to do eventually is pick up the Pendragon RPG, because I feel like that would give me a lot of a good model of like how to do this, because that is based on kind of obviously like Arthurian knights, and he uses this kind of like life path mechanics. So I'll have to think about that. Yeah, that's another thing that I will think about if I decide to keep kind of maybe thinking about this and writing it, is with the character creation of having some kind of life path. And then another thing would be, your character skills. It would be kind of like you would have, as one of these Mamluks, you would have like training in horsemanship, training in weapons. I mean, the image I'm using for this video is from one of these manuals of instruction. So, you know, there would again be like a context for a reason, like why your character knows how to like ride a horse and use a sword and all these different things. So, all right, I want to keep this kind of shorter so I don't go on too long. But if you think this is an interesting idea, you know, leave a comment or something. I want to try to actually work on this eventually, but we'll see. I'm thinking, as of recording this, I would like to try and see if I could put a group together in some kind of RPG system, maybe, and maybe even use like the basic role-play system, like from Chaosium, which I really like, or something like that. Perhaps like 3.5 Dungeons and Dragons, maybe, I don't know, but it's kind of hard. I've been, all my attempts lately to organize RPG groups have not really been successful. So anyway, yeah. Well, I hope at least you found this interesting. Maybe you can, you know, take the idea for your own campaign or something. And I hope you found this, yeah, interesting at least. All right. Talk to you in the next video. Have a good day or good evening, wherever you are.